Hey, Tere, here's an update about my author pal. Because if you thought you were having a bad day, just wait till you hear this one. He has a cut on his finger from where he sliced open a package with a knife, and it wouldn't stop bleeding. And then when he went to the hospital, they said they couldn't help him because he didn't have health insurance. So now he is writing his new horror stories with blood-stained bandages on his fingers and a frown on his face. Anyway, here's what he sent me. Enjoy. A lone figure stood before the mansion's wrought iron gates, their silhouette stark against the bruised twilight sky. Amelia adjusted the strap of her backpack, its weight a familiar comfort in the unsettling quiet that seemed to emanate from the house itself. With a deep breath, she pushed open the gates, each hinge screaming like a banshee, and stepped onto the gravel path. She had come searching for answers, for a semblance of understanding in the wake of her sister's cryptic disappearance. 6 months ago, her sister, Eleanor, a writer of dark fantasy novels, had moved into the sprawling mansion known locally as Blackwood Manor. Days later, she vanished without a trace, leaving behind only a half-written manuscript and an unfinished symphony of fear. The police had labeled it a runaway case, a theory that made no sense to Amelia. Her sister wasn't prone to flights of fancy. Grounding herself, Amelia continued up the path. Ivy clung to the house like skeletal fingers, and the windows, vacant eye sockets, stared back blankly. As dusk bled into darkness, Amelia reached the front door, its imposing presence framed by a tarnished brass knocker in the shape of a snarling wolf's head. A sudden gust of wind rattled the leaves in the ancient oak tree at the side of the house, and for a moment, Amelia hesitated, the rational part of her urging her to turn back, but the flicker of candlelight from within the house beckoned her forward. Taking a deep breath, she knocked, the sound echoing in the stillness like a gunshot. In the ensuing silence, she heard it again, a soft, rhythmic tapping sound coming from inside the house. Footsteps. Tentatively, she pushed the door open and stepped inside. The interior was a cavernous space, dimly lit by a single flickering candle on a side table. Cobwebs adorned the high ceilings and dust motes danced in the dying embers of the fireplace. As Amelia ventured deeper into the house, the scratching sound grew louder, accompanied by the murmur of voices, disembodied whispers that seemed to slither around her, chilling her to the bone. Then she saw them, 3 shadowy figures seated in a circle on the floor, their backs to her. They were engaged in a macabre game, their voices raspy and low as they spoke in hushed tones. Curiosity piqued, Amelia decided to approach them. As she drew closer, the figures stirred, turning to face her with expressions that were both grotesque and haunting. One of the figures was hunched over, its head lolling at an unnatural angle, its eyes vacant and soulless. Another was levitating above the ground, its limbs twisted at impossible angles. And the third was amorphous, shifting and pulsating like a shadow given form. "Who are you?" she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. The figures fell silent, their gazes boring into her, and a heavy silence descended upon the room. It felt as if the very essence of fear had coalesced in that space, pressing down on her with a suffocating weight. Suddenly, the hunched-over figure lurched forward, its unnatural movements eerily fluid. "Run!" it rasped, its voice a grating screech. "Don't stay here! Don't stay here!" Its words hung in the air like a curse, and Amelia felt a primal fear grip her, urging her to flee. But something held her rooted to the spot. The levitating figure glided closer, its eyes gleaming with an otherworldly light. "You should stay," it hissed. "We have been expecting you." Its gaze bored into hers, sending shivers down her spine. Struggling to free herself from the paralysis that seemed to grip her, Amelia took a step back. The amorphous figure shifted, tendrils reaching out towards her like grasping claws. "You are one of us now," it whispered, its voice a chorus of rustling whispers. In that moment, Amelia understood. This house, this Blackwood Manor, was a nexus of fear, a vortex of dread that fed on human emotion. And she had walked right into its grasp, her mind screaming in terror. Her legs finally obeyed, turning and running blindly for the door. She burst out into the night, the fresh air of the night bringing a clarity that banished some of the images seared into her brain. Panting, she looked back at the house. The windows were dark, the doors firmly shut. Was it all a dream? A trick of her exhausted imagination? Shaking off the lingering unease, she started to walk away, telling herself that it was all nonsense, a figment of her overactive imagination. But then she heard it again, the sound that had driven her from the house, footsteps following close behind. She turned to see the amorphous shape from the fire, its edges blurring the boundaries between darkness and shadow, emerging from the darkness of the house. With a silent grace, it glided forward, its tendrils reaching out towards her, its presence seeping into her mind, wrapping around her thoughts like a shroud. Amelia screamed, her voice echoing in the vast emptiness, a desperate plea for help that went unanswered. She ran, stumbling over roots and stones. The image of the pursuing entity burned into her retina. As she fled, the forest seemed to close in around her, branches reaching out like skeletal fingers, leaves rustling with unseen eyes watching her every move. The air grew heavy, charged with a palpable sense of dread that seemed to suck the breath from her lungs. Behind her, the footsteps grew louder, more insistent, as if whatever was pursuing her was closing in. Panic clawed at her throat, choking off her screams, as the entity drew closer. And then she saw it. Through the trees, a sliver of moonlight revealed a clearing, and at the far end, a towering oak stood like a beacon. With a surge of adrenaline, Amelia broke into a run, stumbling towards the oak, its gnarled branches offering a semblance of safety. As she neared the tree, the entity loomed out of the shadows, its form coalescing, becoming more solid with each step. She could see its features now, contorted in a silent scream, its eyes wide with an eternal terror. Just as she reached the oak, it lunged, its grasp closing around her ankle, and with a final surge of strength, dragged her back into the darkness. In the clearing, the moon hid behind storm clouds, shrouding the world in an oppressive darkness. The oak stood sentinel, silent witness to the horror that had unfolded, and at its base lay the remnants of Amelia's backpack, its contents scattered around her like fallen leaves. Her flashlight lay on the ground, its beam extinguished, its batteries spilled onto the grass. A single glove lay abandoned nearby, a silent testament to the fate that had befallen her. And as the first drops of rain began to fall, the forest held its breath, waiting for the next soul to wander into its embrace. So, I hope you enjoyed that one. I thought you might, because you seem to like scary stories. But before you go, let me ask you a favor. Would you ever enter a creepy old mansion alone? Let me know in the comments below. Also, while you're at it, why not show your support by hitting that like button and sharing this video with a friend? And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. I always appreciate it when you do. And hey, if you want to stay up to date on all things spooky and supernatural, be sure to check out my podcast. Until then, keep an eye out for those monsters lurking in the shadows. Stay safe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.